we've got your Raiders covered.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
This is Silver and Black Tonight on CBS Sports Radio 1140. And now, here's your host, Scott Gobranson.
Oh, Raider Nation. That one hurt on Sunday. Oh, yes. The Raiders down 34-3 against the Jets. Sorry,
Man down.
Well, let me set things here. This is the Silver and Black Tonight. We were gone last week due to UNR basketball. We are back. I am Scott Gobranson. The man across the table from me is Chaz Osborne, who forgot to turn his mic on.
The one and only.
He had some really quippy...
Let me set the table. First of all, happy birthday, Scott Gobranson. How about that? Are you 39 again? Or
I'm 39 again.
Is this the big one?
I'm 39. I'm old.
I'm a-coming. It's a big one.
Esther. Okay. So, we are back here, Silver and Black Tonight, of course. We also host the Silver and Black Today, Sunday mornings, 8 to 10 a.m. But on this show, on the Tuesday night show, it's a dead night in the NFL, but we're oh so alive, Chaz.
Oh, baby. Well, we were until Sunday at about...
midway through the first quarter?
Pacific time.
Oof, it was
No,
bad.
it was fine. The first half was fine.
It
was.
Come on.
What were you
watching? They had the one drive. That was it. They got a field goal on the first drive, and that was it.
It was one of those limited games where there was only, a minimal amount of drives for both teams. So the opening drive, they scored 3 points, which, only 11 out of the 28 teams scored on their opening drive. It's hard to do now with the weather and
Wait a minute. Say that stat again.
11 of the 28 teams.
I'm just so proud of you.
I know.
Getting those stats.
You told me to get
That's
stats.
awesome.
I'm not a stats guy.
I know, but I love it. You're awesome.
I looked them all up myself.
But it's good to put that in perspective, though.
So it's hard to score on your opening drive, bottom line. They did that. They came back. They would have, that drop, obviously we're going to get into all these things. The second drive, that third and, 16, Tyrell Williams dropped right in his hands. So the weather obviously had a little something to do with that. Third drive, they went all the way down again. They kind of stalled out on another third down, and then missed the field goal. The wind, the wind kind of pushed it. It was going right down the middle, and then the hand of God just pushed it right outside. So they were moving the ball. The first half was fine. We're going to get into it. Go ahead.
Well, I mean,
don't get me riled up.
Look, the Raiders had 2 possessions in the first half.
3.
I'm
they
sorry,
had 5.
in the first quarter. Excuse me.
First quarter. Okay.
2 in the first quarter. You mentioned the field goal. Then they punted.
Right.
Then they had 3 in the second quarter. Right?
Right.
The longest being 3 minutes and 31 seconds. Okay?
You're talking about Jack Ryan. Listen, I've gone longer than 3 minutes myself. That was probably my turning point of the game, was those 2 at the end of the first half. They had 2 3-and-outs that were just pathetic. Like they just did not know what was going on.
Yes, in fact, here it was. It was at 3:12 of the second, right before halftime. They have 3 plays, 1 yard. Then, with 40 seconds left, they get the ball back at the end of the half. Really not much time to do much.
But they did have a timeout.
They did move the ball. They moved the ball. They had 3 plays. They went 7 yards.
Okay, well, let me tell you what happened. On the first play, 7 yards. Second play, he clocks the ball. Yeah. Why? You don't clock the ball on 2nd down and 3. You go for it. You still have that one timeout. You get everybody set up to the line. There's about 40 seconds. Yeah. You run a play. If it doesn't work, then it's a dropped pass, and the clock's going to stop anyway. What are you costing yourself by clocking it? 5-6 seconds?
Right.
That was the one play, and I thought to myself, we were always talking about turning points. That was the one that was a head
There's so
scratcher.
many in this game.
You're
early on.
Yeah,
right?
And you really only need to get another 25 yards for a field goal attempt.
Yeah.
And so clocking the ball on 2nd down, I didn't understand it. He got a little pressured, flushed out of the pocket, and threw a duck on 3rd down, and there they are punting again. And it's like, what are you guys doing? What were they? The whole, all the way around, top to bottom, coaching, players, everybody. It just felt like they just didn't have. They weren't executing. Something was wrong. It just didn't feel.
There was, and we're going to get to some sound now from Coach Gruden, some post game, and then we'll get some sound from yesterday's presser as well. In this first clip, we talked about the weather, right? And weather does factor in.
It should, yeah.
Now when we were talking on Sunday, Kelly said, "Oh, weather doesn't matter from a betting perspective," which I understand.
Well,
but it does matter from a play on the field perspective. But here's what Gruden, when they asked him about the impact of weather in clip 1 here, here's what Gruden had to say.
Obviously, that was a big part of it. I'm not going to use that as an excuse. They don't call games off in this league. There's not a dome here where they can put it over the field. We drop passes. Hell, we dropped 4 center quarterback exchanges in the second half. Missed tackles. We missed field goals. We missed an opportunity to show our fans that came out today what kind of football team we are. Really disappointed in it. I take credit for all the things that went wrong.
His sounds are just great. Listen, it gets cold and rainy in Oakland too, right? I mean, those players are used to playing in different conditions. That being said, I do feel like the weather was a factor in a couple of those drop passes that we just talked about and the wind blowing the field goal out for both teams. So, these guys, they played in colleges and different places. That not everybody plays in domes in San Diego and beautiful sunny weather all the time.
Well, and here's the thing, though. I think that, as he said, and you'll hear him say later again, too, both teams played in the same conditions.
Yeah, they were both out there.
And you could say, well, the Jets, they practice in it, and the Jets have a dome they practice into on their field. They have a practice thing.
Right.
But at the same time, they're just in it more, and I think it becomes more of a psychological issue.
Absolutely.
Derek Carr now in games that kick off that are under 40 degrees Fahrenheit, he's 0-4. So you can talk about weather not being a factor, and he's right. You can't blame the weather, but it's a factor. Yeah. I'll put it that way. And he didn't deny that. He just said, look, it's a factor for both of us.
That West Coast team playing the early game on the East Coast, they always bring that up, and I never really thought that was a thing, but they just kind of use that as like a pin and bullet point. Yeah, that's a factor. I don't see it, but obviously it is.
Well, and then if you look at also the Raiders coming out, some people, the Raiders came out flat. I don't think so, because to your point, they went down on their first drive and they scored. Yes, I always hate seeing teams go down and score 3 versus 7, especially on the road. But like you said at the time when we were watching the game at the Stage Door Casino, the home of Raider Nation in Las Vegas, by the way.
Good time.
When we were down there, you said, hey, you know what, though? You take points when you're on the road, and I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
When they asked Gruden about the team, did they come out flat in clip 2? Here's what he had to say.
I'm not going to say we're flat. We had a beautiful opening drive. We go down the field. We mishandle the ball. We make a field goal. We're hanging around. We have another key drop that might score on the next possession. Next possession, we miss a field goal. Credit the Jets, man. I mean, they're part of the story today. It's not all how poorly we played, although we didn't play very good.
Right, and that's the thing. Credit the Jets. He said the exact word. There's 2 teams out on the field. Now everybody's giving the Raiders all this credit. They're in the wild card spot. It's all about the Raiders this, the Raiders that. The Jets are hearing that. They're not going to just take the field and roll over. They came out to play, and I've only watched the Jets a full game earlier this year when they played the Cowboys. Really, the only other game I had watched, and I was really impressed. And I thought, well, maybe that was an anomaly. They just got the quarterback, and the Cowboys were probably looking past them because they were winless, and they had the Eagles coming up the next week. But credit that Jets defense; they were solid. They held Jacobs in check, our running game in check. They didn't let Carr do his little dink and dunk passes. They were just right up on that 5-6 yard line area where Carr likes to kind of use and work. And they didn't come out flat. They did move the ball, like we just talked about. The first 3 drives of the half, subtracting that Terrell Williams drop in that second drive. But those last 2 drives were just head scratchers. They just
but the thing is too. I mean, we talked about this on Sunday, right? Which is the fact that look, you have to. It's the NFL. You have to go play. You have to play teams, and even the worst NFL team is still an NFL team, right? You saw that with the Bengals,
right?
The Bengals were only the Raiders only beat them by 7. I said going into the game against the Jets, they're the number 1 rush team. I had people on Twitter say, it's because they haven't faced Josh Jacobs, right? Well, guess what? Josh Jacobs had 34 yards.
Yep.
They shut down. Now, the run game got shut down early anyway because they got behind so quickly. But at the same time, it's a good defense. It's not a great defense. I'm not saying this is a playoff team in the Jets at 4-7.
Yeah.
But I'm saying they have talent there. They're not reaching their ability, the full ability, I believe, in New York. And so what happens is you go in and you face a team like that. You have a young team. And you're still developing. That's why when Raiders fans were saying, we're going to go beat the Jets and then we're going to go beat Kansas City. Well, maybe they still go beat Kansas City. I'm not saying they're not going to do that.
That's what I'm saying. This could all be for naught if they beat Kansas City this week.
But you can't ever count on a win in the NFL. You just can't. They asked Gruden about this in clip number 3, talking about a young team and talking about how they're still under development.
I hope so. I hope the players listened, after the game. We've got a tight group of players. We got some very good veterans. We're 6-5. We got a Thanksgiving week. It's a long trip out here to New Jersey. We got a long trip back to California. We got a long trip next week, and we're going to be ready to play, and hopefully we can play a lot better.
Yeah, you can see that, and you can hear it in the interviews with these players. They are a tight group, and yes, it is a young team, and for them to be where they are in this growing, learning process, they're way ahead of the curve, and the good news is they have so much more room for improvement.
No, that's true, and that's the thing too. we're going to talk more about the game a little bit and talk about your game-defining moment here after the first break. But that's the thing. Look, at 6-5, remember, and I put my money behind it. I bet them to finish 6-10. Okay,
right.
So they're already at 6 or 5. I think the chances are pretty good they're going to win more than 6 games.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, but I said even going into when I talked to the guys in Kansas City at 610 Sports, our sister station out there on Intercom, when I talked to them last week, Sean, the host, asked me. He said, "Hey, what do they got to do for you to?" Because he said you sound like you're a little bit still unsure if they're a playoff team.
Right.
And I said, well, because they're young. They're inexperienced, and you just don't know what you're going to get. Yeah. It doesn't mean that they don't have the talent to be a playoff team. What it means to me is, and I told them, I said, if they go to New York and beat the Jets, then I'm a full believer.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't do that. They have another chance in Kansas City. It's going to be a tough game. We'll talk about a lot of the reasons why later. But I still think they can be a playoff team. I'm not saying they can't. It's just they're at that teetering point of, look, you're young, you're developing, so don't get too excited. And, Chaz, I've said it a million times, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's what you see with young teams in the NFL.
And we've talked about their margin of error, and this setback in New York last week probably really narrowed their margin of error. Now, if they lose again to Kansas City, there goes that tiebreaker, which they probably weren't going to have anyway because it goes to the division and then after the division. So margin of error, if they end up 6-6, do they have to go 4-0 to finish the season? I think so, to make the playoffs.
Well, and you know what? Yeah, because 9-7, 10-6. I mean, the way things could change. There's a lot of big matchups coming up.
They have to be Tennessee. I think they have to have that tiebreaker against Tennessee because they have the tiebreaker against the Colts, so that's great. If they have the tiebreaker against Tennessee, also great. You need to have the Steelers fall off, and the Bills are looking strong. We'll see what happens with them. They got a pretty tough schedule coming up.
They do, and so that. But in the AFC, I really believe you could hit 9-7 and not make the playoffs.
No, for sure. That's what I'm saying. If you have these tiebreakers, because right when it comes down to this last week or two, it starts getting complicated. They start looking at tiebreakers all the way down to the bottom.
But that was the good thing with that 3-game stretch at home where they won 3 in a row.
Right.
They, in essence, put their own fate in their own hands.
Correct.
Now, that's what I'm saying is like, hey, if the Raiders don't win enough to make the playoffs, it's still a very successful season.
I believe
they have ratcheted up the intensity. They're getting play out of guys like Max Crosby. They're getting folks like Josh Jacobs to do what they thought he could do. So that's all good. I mean, it's all good. So as tough as it was for fans to watch the Jets just roll over the Raiders, because that's what happened. There's no way to sugarcoat it.
Well, yep. It was just one of those freakish
one of those games.
Everything bad happened.
Right.
And every team goes out and throws a clunker once in a while. That's
absolutely
one of those throwaway games. But I was looking at all those preseason predictions, all those so-called experts, and I'm talking about Sports Illustrated, the 4-letter Bleacher Report, even our own CBS Sports John Breach. And they all had the Raiders pick last in the division. So, like you said, for this team to be playing for a share of the division lead this weekend with 5 games left in the season just shows how much more improved they are than anyone thought they would be.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And, that's the thing is I think with Raider fans, the point of caution we made last week, which is like, look, be excited. You should be excited.
Be happy.
Everything is on the right track, I believe. Okay? Yeah. But that doesn't mean you've reached your destination yet.
No.
Right?
We're definitely on track. And, everybody's talking about, we'd rather be 4-12 or 12-4. Well, when you're past that being 4-12 every season and getting those good picks, you want to start seeing progress and building something to build off of. Now, obviously, a playoff game would be huge going forward for this team, but still, a 9-7 season when you're only predicted to have 6 wins, that's huge.
No, it is, and I think you see the Jekyll and Hyde nature of Raider Nation come out after that loss.
Every win, it's like a Super Bowl. Every loss, it's like
and they want to find one person to blame it on when clearly it was a team loss.
It's always a team.
There was not one person who didn't perform well enough, so the team lost. And so I think that's where you have to temper yourself and say, look, what is the problem here? Why didn't they play well? And I think this is one of the things, and Gruden said it himself. He said, listen, we have to look at the film, but besides that, you just kind of have to move on. Mm-hmm. Because the outside of, just going in, and I'm sure he gave his team a tongue lashing, and saying, look, we got to do better than that, guys. If you think you're going to be a playoff team or going to do any of this, that's what you have to do. And move forward and just look towards the Chiefs. Now, were players looking ahead? People, this is a trap game. A trap game is when you don't expect something to happen. Even Josh Jacobs post-game said, no, this is probably better for us.
Yeah,
we maybe and it shows a maturity of Josh Jacobs to say, you know what, maybe this is what we needed is to
little
say,
reality check,
a little reality
right?
check after reading your own press.
Exactly, and it's something they're going to learn from. You're absolutely right. Now, I've been to New York a handful of times. It's a good time over there. I don't know the structure or the lights out, but if these guys got whatever time they got to be in for the curfew. But that can factor in too, man. It's a good time over there. And some of these guys might be their first time ever being in New York, and they wanted to go out and see some sights, and they got caught up in the whole thing. And, like Mo Moten talked about, don't read the press because you're going to get a little big-headed and you're putting the cart before the horse. And that's absolutely what happened. But to your point, Josh Jacobs saying, hey, this is going to, we're taking a positive out of this. This is a learning experience, and we're all going to grow from this. And they are a young team, and they will.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, when you were being in the NBA for so long as you were, Chaz, that's the remarkable thing, I think, for most professional athletes is when you play a season. Now, the NFL season obviously a lot shorter than the NBA season.
Right.
But when you lose a game like that, where it's just, you get run, they forget. They just move on.
You get on the plane, you're on to the next city, and it's just forgotten. Now, a young team, you do want to put that in your memory banks and remember, hey, we came into a hostile environment. They ratcheted up the intensity, and we couldn't match it. So definitely remember that for next time, down the road, next season, whatever it may be. But, when I started, it was a veteran team, so they could go out and party. And I was out a few times with these guys, and I'm thinking, man, they got to play tomorrow. And they would come out and win, and then we'd be in another city that night, and they'd be out again till 3 a.m. I'm thinking, well, we're really going to lose the next. And they'd win again. So with a veteran team, yes. With a young team, a whole different story. These guys, it's hard. You got to stay focused. It's hard when you're out on the road and you're seeing new sights and you're having a good time. And we were both young. We used to go down and have our good times at all of our places too. So, no fault there. As long as they learn from it, they move on and give us a better performance this weekend in Kansas City. That's all you can ask for.
No, that is right. All right, well, we're going to step aside, take a break. When we come back, Chaz will have his game-defining moment.
Oh.
If there was one,
well,
right? There was.
I don't know.
You're listening to the Silver and Black tonight here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Platinum upgrade and to learn more.
CBS Sports Radio. When you need inside info on your Raiders, you'll find it here. This is Silver and Black Tonight on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Welcome back to the Silver and Black Tonight here on CBS Sports Radio 1140 a.m. in the city of Las Vegas. Thanksgiving week. Yes, sir. I had a birthday yesterday. Chaz, you have a birthday.
No.
Oh, yes.
Oh, no.
Tomorrow.
Friday. Yeah. But
the 29th, the day after Turkey Day. So here's the deal. So we have birthday. We're both Sagittarius, so yeah.
That's right.
We hang together. We know what to do. But anyway, we are talking about the Raiders. We hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving week. Yep. Get some days off. We'll talk to you back on Sunday. We're going to be Sunday live for the big, huge Raiders.
It's for share of the division.
It's for a share of the division, right? You forget about the Jets game if they go to Kansas City and win.
If they win that, that's gravy, baby.
It is. And so we're going to be doing that live again from the Stage Door Casino. Mm-hmm. We saw some people there from the Inland Empire who came out. They said, hey, we saw you guys tweeting that you're out here. We came out to watch the Raiders game. They had a great time out there. It was a good environment. Raiders on all the TVs. Yep. Of course, John Viscara from Stage Door Casino has us in. He's coming in tomorrow for our Playmaker show, actually. Those drinks we tested on Sunday.
Tested?
He's serving them to Paul and Lindsay on the Playmakers
we'll
from 3
to 6.
We'll see how they fare. Yeah. I've learned my lesson. Jet fuel ingested is not good.
Knock you on your booty.
So we're going to be there from 8 to 10 a.m. Of course, they flex the game to 1 o'clock.
Right.
So come down, party with us early, 8 to 10.
Yeah.
Get that quarter-pound hot dog. Stick around, then we can actually watch the game.
But it's a great spot. I mean, you and I, after the game, we took a walk down to the Strip. We got some lunch. I mean, you're right in the heart of the Las Vegas Strip. It's just such a perfect location.
But it's still a neighborhood bar.
It's a
That's what's
neighborhood
great
bar.
about
They've
it.
got a parking lot.
Yeah.
You can walk to the link right there.
Awesome.
It's 5 minutes from everything. It's such a perfect spot.
It is. So come down, Stage Door Casino, 8 to 10 a.m. on Sunday. Special Raider drinks, the Black Hole and the Silver and Black drinks made with Tequila Comisario.
Yeah.
Who sponsors our 5 o'clock cheers on the Playmakers.
I'm missing like an hour or two of that Sunday afternoon. I can't really remember.
Oh, you don't remember that?
Oh.
All right, back to Raiders football now, and this is the segment where Chaz talks about the game-defining moment. But we wanted to play for you Jon Gruden's press conference yesterday. He talked about the reasons in clip number 5 here about the loss to the Jets.
As opening drive, we won the toss. We went down, had a field goal. We mishandled a pass. And then we had the ball again, and we mishandled another pass. It was a big play. Would have set up a scoring opportunity. And then we had the ball again, and we missed a field goal. And we missed some opportunities to put points on the board. There was a questionable call on a personal foul on the quarterback, which put points on their board that I didn't agree with. But I don't agree with many things that happen in life. We did not get that contagious playmaking vibe yesterday. We're waiting for somebody to make a play. It just didn't happen. I take credit for it. I got to do a better job, but a learning experience for our entire team, and hopefully it makes us better in the long run.
Yeah, like you said, they didn't really get any momentum, right? They just never gained any traction. They'd get a little something going, and like you said, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and that was just in the game. But, certainly that roughing the passer call seemed like a turning point. But the Jets, they would have gotten a field goal at the least on that drive. And it was still early in the game, 10 minutes left in the second quarter, and the Raiders moved the ball well on their next possession. Of course, that was the third possession you just talked about, and the drive stalling out on another missed third down opportunity, and that resulted in another missed field goal. But I thought the turning point for me was the Raiders going 3 and out on those last 2 possessions of the half. The offense, they did not look incisive. They looked unsure of what they wanted to do, with the clock running out, and that kind of carried over into the defense. Starting the second half, the defense came out uninspired, and they gave up 2 touchdowns in 8 plays, and then the cherry on top was that pick six, that deflected pass, Derek Carr, and that was it. Game over. They scored 3 touchdowns in the first 5 minutes of the third quarter, and It was just an avalanche after that. We couldn't stop it.
Well, and that's the thing too is the offense did not do well. I mean, there's just no question.
Yeah, they couldn't.
You got to call a spade, right? Mm. And for those of you out there who want me to bash Derek Carr, because the people who don't like Derek Carr are going to say, well, he didn't perform well, and he didn't. Okay, right. Neither did the rest of the offense. So the receivers dropped the balls. You can't blame everything on the receivers dropping the balls. Derek Carr wasn't crisp either. Mm. So that's fine. And he would tell you that himself. So I think what you heard there, and to your point, Chaz, about the third quarter is, and let me go back real quick to the roughing the passer call. The only reason I thought the roughing the passer call was a big deal, yes, it resulted in 7 points, not 3, which it may still have led to 3. It just seems like the Raiders were waiting for something, and Gruden said it in this past clip. It's like they were waiting for somebody to make a play.
Right, some spark.
And that sack could have been that play.
That could have been the momentum switch right there,
And that's where, and of course, we're assuming a lot there. But to me...
Well, no, I mean, instead of, first and goal, and then...
They were third and long.
It would have been, 3rd and 16 from the 20.
Right.
And, they're looking at a field goal. Maybe the wind blows it out again.
You never know with that weather.
Any kind of spark. And that, a big sack, Max Crosby's kind of the golden boy right now. For him to get that big sack, that could have just inspired everybody to just get going.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing, too, is the other thing we saw from the offense. Because I thought, look, I knew that Sam Darnold would have a good day. He's been trending up. And,
we talked about, the Jets. Everybody's saying, oh, they're only 3-7. Well, let's just put into perspective. Sam Darnold was out for 4 games with mono. Right. In that first game,
he had mono
as well. They lost by 1 point to the Bills. So if he's there and he's sharp, we might be looking at a 7-3 Jets team, 6-4, something like that, instead of 3-7 and kind of overlooking it.
Right, but Darnold, 20 of 29, 315 yards. He was hitting on almost 11 yards per attempt.
Oh, yeah, he was doing whatever he wanted.
He was doing whatever he wanted, along a 69, of course, a passer rating of 127. Yeah. Derek Carr, 15 of 27, 127 yards for a 52 rating. Of course, he was pulled early. Yeah, the headlines were ridiculous, saying he was benched. He wasn't benched. He was pulled out because you don't keep your starting quarterback.
And, that was one thing I wanted to give Coach credit for, is taking most of the starters out at the end of that third quarter. It's a blowout. There's no way you're going to score, 28 points you need to catch up in the fourth quarter. Take everybody out. It's a cold, rainy, not ideal game, and you're already down. It's already over. Get everybody out of there. No more injuries, and I credit Coach for doing that. That roughing the passer call, that was just, Sam Darnold was outside of the pocket, so he's essentially the runner.
Yeah.
And so there shouldn't even be a roughing the passer call. But they just laid him down. I guess they're trying to say that Mo Hurst landed on him, and I watched the replay. He didn't. He held himself up. That one really hurt. That was you're right. That was a game changer.
It was a terrible call, and Raiders fans are used to that, obviously.
And there was a lot of holding calls, on the whole game. I would see them, they'd show them on replays, and the Jets' offensive line was holding a lot. And the announcers even brought it up twice.
Yeah.
Like, well, there was a holding call there while they were looking at something else.
Yeah.
So it felt like kind of, the Raiders, we always have that saying, the Raiders always saying it's us against the Raider fans. Well, they're always against us. They're always out to get us. But it kind of felt like, boy, they could have had a lot more calls go the Raiders' way, and they didn't.
Yeah, it did. But at the same time, I think one thing that concerns me when I look at this team heading down the stretch here is that if you look at the last 3 weeks, this offense has not been very good.
Exactly.
Now, they've pulled out wins. So you have to credit them that. The Charger game, clearly, they came back that last drive and won the game. And then against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was the thing with this game now. In that Charger game, you felt that when he went down at the end and the Raiders scored that touchdown to win. And then in the Cincinnati game, they went down just before halftime and scored a touchdown. And you felt like, okay, they've got it. So this game, just before in the second half, that's why those 2 3-and-outs at the end of the first half.
Big.
I thought if they go down and do it again, well, then that's just that's the kind of, we're getting an identity. That's the team we're going to be. We're gonna when the time comes, we're gonna take the bull by the horns. We're gonna take it down there and jam it in and make a game.
Right, but I think in this case where you had a Jets defense that's let's face it, bad. I mean, the Jets defense is not very good, except up front against the run.
Yeah, and so he should have been able to pass.
Right, he should have been able to pass.
And
now,
he was, unfortunately,
early on, they drops,
drops,
right? And so that kind of spoiled it at that point. But you still need to, that's where you need to pick it up, and you need to find Darren Waller, which he did a few times, but you need to find it. So to me, there's a concern there. All right, we're going to step aside for the bottom of the hour break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the battle versus attrition, right? With another big injury for the Raiders. The Raiders have had bad luck this year with injuries, suspensions, and whatnot. We're going to talk about that when we come back and how it might affect the rest of the season. You're listening to the Silver and Black Tonight here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140.
When you need inside info on your Raiders, you'll find it right here.
Raiders defensive line coach Brenson Buckner.
We're not trying to be the best pass rushers we can be. We're not trying to be the best run stoppers we can be. We're trying to be the best football players we can be.
With your Walker Furniture Raiders Daily, I'm Mark Thomas. The Silver and Black met with
My favorite thing about our team is our Madden ratings are really low, but we're pretty good at football.
Knock on wood if you're with me.
Raider Nation rallies with us. CBS Sports Radio 1140. From Allen to Zog, and all the Davises, Jacksons, and Woodsons in between. We've got your Raiders covered. This is Silver and Black Tonight on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
I don't agree with many things that happen in life.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Welcome back to the Silver and Black Tonight here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Chaz Osborne and myself, Scalco Branson, are here with you talking Raiders football after Sunday's big loss. I shouldn't say big loss. It was a big loss.
Yeah, it was
31 points in New York, in New Jersey, East Rutherford to be exact. But we're back here talking Raider football. And this time we're going to talk a little bit about the battle of attrition. Now, the Raiders have been hurt all season by injuries. You go back, and we're going to run through the gambit here, going back to May, when Isaiah Crowell, the running back, who they could actually use right now, blew his Achilles out in May. Then you had Rodney Huntsett on the offensive line. You had Jordan Devey go on the IR. You had LaMarcus Joyner out this week. Arden Key broke his foot. Carl Joseph broke his foot. Jonathan Abram, the stud rookie, after one game, actually in the first game, blew out that shoulder, had to have surgery. Holy moly. And this team is 6-5.
Right.
It's a testament to the coaching staff and to the players in that locker room. But we also got bad news yesterday, and here's Jon Gruden in clip number 6 talking about Hunter Renfrow.
That's some bad news. We feel that Hunter Renfrow hurt his rib, and he's going to be out for a while. Big loss for our team. I'm not going to get into the severity because I really don't know. We're looking at his ribs, and as soon as I get the official exact determination, I'll let you know. We'll obviously have Keelan Doss, who's played in the slot a little bit this year. He's a good player. Darren Waller can play in the slot. Carrier can play in the slot. And Zay Jones made a living in the slot at East Carolina, so we'll see who we plug in there as we prepare for the Chiefs.
Yeah,
that's a big loss for us. We've had a lot of turnover at that position this year. It's really too bad. I'll say this: Renfrow is going to be a great Raider. He's really been playing good for us.
And Renfrow, he was right. Renfrow was really starting to come into his own. Renfrow and Derek Carr were really starting to build that synergy.
Click. They click.
They're really starting to click.
Yeah, it's too bad. And every indication we have, reports from media in the Bay Area say that Renfrow's pretty much gone for the season.
Yeah,
obviously with the number of games left and the severity of the injury. Dude, to get a broken rib. I've had a broken rib before, but I've never had it puncture my lung.
Yeah, that's
holy moly,
real.
And if you watch that hit, some Raider fans thought it was too early. Borderline.
It was. It was early, and it could have been a pass interference. That's what I was saying. There was a lot of penalties that could have been called on the Jets that weren't. So it was a little suspect. I'm not going to go into full Raider mode and say we're getting like usual.
Full Raider mode.
It was an early hit on him, and he took an earlier hit in the game, and he went out. It looked like the referee was talking to him like, "Are you okay?" Want to give him the concussion protocol maybe. But he will be missed. This rookie class has been phenomenal. They're first in rush yards, first in receptions, scrimmage yards, scrimmage touchdowns, and sacks.
Yeah.
So that just tells you, Kelly Kreiner, our resident draft expert, he was telling me that in the NFL draft, the top 3 rounds are really where all the talent is, right? And if you can hit on 2 of those 3 picks, you're over the moon excited. You're ecstatic about that. And in anything in those later rounds, if you can find something there, that's just gravy. So for the Raiders, they've had 6 picks that are giving major contributions, and that's not counting Alec Ingold, who was an undrafted free agent, and Jonathan Abrams, like you said, who's been out, injured for the whole season. 6 of these picks are in there, playing major minutes.
Well, and Chaz, imagine as dark of a day as it would be. Imagine if this class wasn't playing like they were with all the and that's why we brought up this whole idea of the war against attrition, because in the NFL you have to have depth to build a winning team.
Absolutely.
because you just get injuries. It's a brutal game.
Yep.
So you're going to have injuries. You're going to have people go out. There's no doubt about it, right? So the Raiders have had that. We just went through that laundry list: Joseph, Abram, Key, Joyner, Crowell, Hudson at times, Devy. All these guys have been out, right? And then of course the Antonio Brown ridiculousness. So you lost all those players,
right?
And for the most part, not saying that they replaced any specific players, but these guys have jumped in. The rookie class is a big part of that, but so have the role players. They've come in. I'm not saying they're playing as well as Jonathan Abram would have played at safety,
of course not.
But they've jumped in and done enough for this team to have a winning record at this point in the season.
And they have a shot at the playoffs. And, we've been talking about Mike Mayock. I've been hearing a lot of chatter and reading things on social media about Mike Mayock, being the GM of the year candidate and the front runner. And, most of that's attributed to the draft, obviously. But, when I worked in the NBA, we used to bring guys in weekly for workouts. And you've always got kind of your finger on the pulse of what's happening with these free agents. And, now that the NBA has the developmental league, so that makes it a lot easier. But the Raiders are bringing guys in weekly for workouts. And now you're getting guys like a Deion Jordan and a Swearinger. And, they've seen all these people that they've had in for workouts, and they know where to plug and play these guys. And so give Mike Mayock and those guys credit for being able to have this kind of revolving door with all these injuries and bringing in these guys to kind of plug into spots, and it's been working.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. And the other thing, though, Chaz, is with all of that, it is a problem, though. And the problem is that you have no margin for error. Now, you lost Hunter Renfrow.
Right.
The Raiders' receiving core has not been great. Terrell Williams and Gruden, we didn't play a clip about it, but Gruden talked about his foot injury and that it's still an issue. It might still be bothering him.
Yeah, that's one of those things that lingers for a while.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. So he's maybe not at 100%. I still think he's the real deal number 2 wide receiver.
He is.
Okay.
And, with how many picks do we have? 5. The Raiders have 5 picks in the top 100 coming up.
Yeah.
And what from everything I'm hearing, this is a very top-heavy, wide receiver-heavy draft coming up. So
it is.
If they can get a number 1 out of this draft, that's phenomenal. And then, Keelan Doss,
we'll see how he does.
We'll see how he does. Zay Jones, I think, has been kind of picking it up each week. He's getting, starting to stack up the completions. So
and not only that, but I also think you talked about, and this is where the loss of Renfrow is such a big deal to me, is the fact that you have a guy. Like you said, they're clicking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you suddenly lose that guy as a quarterback, right?
Right.
And I'm not here to make excuses for Derek
No,
Carr.
but he was starting to become a security blanket.
Correct.
Like, his catches last week, 3 of his 5 catches went for first. They're third down catches going for first downs, and he had 2 more this week, and they were starting to build that.
Yeah.
So
So to me, that's the deal. Is you have one of those situations where the quarterback now is going to another set of new receivers. Now you still have Williams there,
right?
You have some of the guys that've been around, but they haven't had significant playing. Zay Jones has played a little more, so he's getting a little more familiar with him.
Yep.
So now you toss in Doss maybe more,
right?
And it's going to take time. So can they put it together quick enough to build that connection? Waller's going to have to play the slot.
So I was going to say, he's still got that real tight connection with Waller. And like you heard,
but when he gets double-teamed, which is happening.
I think all three tight ends actually can get it done, and I feel like he's really comfortable with all three of them. And
we saw a lot of two tight end sets this week, actually.
Mm-hmm. And all three of them have been played phenomenal this whole season. And you heard Gruden say that Waller can play in the slot.
Yeah.
So he can pick up some slack. They've done it all season. They've been doing it. Every team has to do it. Somebody goes out, somebody else comes in, they pick up the slack, next man up. They'll be able to do it.
Yeah, but it's tough because you're getting close to the end now. And you got to make that last season, that last push. Now, this game in Kansas City is a big one, of course, for all the reasons. And we'll talk a little bit about the Raiders in Kansas City next, around the records and what they've been able to do there and what they haven't been able to do.
More like what they haven't been able to do over
exactly,
there.
Exactly. But I will say this, with all of the turnover, with all of the drama, with all of the injuries and all of that stuff, I mean, it's hard. And I'm not here just trying to kiss behind. Gruden and his staff deserve a lot of credit for keeping all of this together and to where they're at. To be 6-5 after the marathon road trip, after all the injuries, after all that has happened, Chaz, it's hard. I my guess is he won't win Coach of the Year because somebody will have a better record and they'll give it to them. But man, it's hard to argue against it because of what the job they've been able to do with that
team. And we
team.
know Jon Gruden's work ethic, that's famous. And we know that he's been doing double time this year because he needs to, after last year, he needs to kind of build that, make that improvement and keep that jump going. But you hear a lot of people talking about that rookie wall and, after 10 games maybe, and here we are, right at 10, 11 games, and it feels like, what happens next week if it's another big blowout in Kansas City? Are we talking about, well, maybe, not shutting it down, obviously, but that rookie wall, everybody's kind of – and I was saying earlier how, I noticed a lot of the players, they weren't coming off they weren't shrugging their shoulders, coming out with their heads down. In this Jets game, I did see that a little bit.
Yeah.
So
they were down
they're starting to get to that point where –
it was an off game, just an off game.
Hopefully it's just an off game, and, still you still heard the positivity in a lot of their interviews after the game. They're still looking for that next week, and let's get it on.
All right. Well – that we're going to conclude the conversation around the Jets game. Let's close the chapter on that one. When we come
that video.
When we come back from the break, we're going to look ahead a little bit, as we also will do on Sunday, to the Chiefs game. Big game with the heated rivalry. You're listening to the Silver and Black Tonight here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Raider Nation rallies with us. This is Silver and Black Tonight on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Welcome back to Silver and Black Tonight. Here, Skockle Branson, Chaz Osborne with you for just a few more minutes. We do want to get a caller in here real quick. Daniel is on the line. He wants to talk a little Raiders football. Daniel.
Hey, guys. How you doing, Chaz?
Hey, Daniel. How you doing, man?
Well, I'm looking on the Raiders website, and it says, order your Derek Carr jersey now. The problem starts there, brother.
So you're not a Carr fan?
Not at all. But, I think he's a great person. I like what he does with his money. I think he's passionate about the team, but I don't think he processes information near quick enough. I think he's going to get these running backs killed if he keeps throwing these little lollipop, Pop Warner slow passes out there. Bill Walsh used to talk about how you make your lineup on the second or third check down. When you see that guy ain't open, turn and throw it. The running back's open, just turn it. You don't have to look at him and let everybody else know. But, I just want to say that you can't trade away your pass rush to the Chicago Bears and have these defensive backs. If you're going to do that, and that's going to be your game plan, then you can't go and draft the tackle from UCLA. You have to get a Fitzpatrick or a Jalen Ramsey and all that. And then they had a second chance after our safeties were hurt to get Fitzpatrick again or to get a Jalen Ramsey. They see they're hurt. Jon Gruden has 10 years. I don't. So, that's one way or the other, brother.
Daniel, you sound like a young guy. You got more than 10 years. Come on.
These guys don't want to hit anybody in the defense. Sam Darnold ran over our DB. Who was that, Lawson?
Yes.
Mike Davis would have knocked him into Wednesday. George Atkinson would have put him in the hospital. Okay, so I mean it's disturbing. But you know, I'll say this: you go back, a Carr is a 36th pick in the draft. You know, the teams that go out and get a number 1 or number 2 pick, Cam Newton, then they went to the Super Bowl. They go get Matty Ice in Atlanta, then they went to the Super Bowl. They went and got Carson Wentz, they went to the Super Bowl. Rams got Jared Goff 2 years later, they go to the Super Bowl. This is not rocket science. Now, you want to keep messing around with the Rivers and the Staffords and the Derek Carrs and all that, do what you do. And they had Flacco in Baltimore, got rid of him, went and got this kid, guess who's probably going to the Super Bowl. I mean, it's not, of course, they all lose to Tom Brady along the way.
That's definitely going to happen. We already talked about that. But Daniel, let me ask you, what would be your solution? If you're not on board with Carr, what's your option? You believe maybe in this draft coming up, we trade up and we get maybe the player from LSU, or you want to draft a young quarterback, or are you looking at a Rivers or somebody that's coming off as a free agent?
No, I would if you could get that kid from LSU, I would do it. I like Fromm from Georgia. If I knew the kid from Alabama wasn't going to get hurt, that'd be great, but I don't know that. But the thing is, if somebody would work with Carr, you know, and tell him the things that I'm telling you guys, it might be possible, but they don't, and he stays the same. And they treat him like he's Jim McMahon and on Hard Knocks. You know, knock on wood if you're with me.
Daniel, thanks for your call, man. We appreciate it, and hope to have you call in again. All right, always good to hear from somebody who's got a strong point of view, right?
Yeah, man.
And he echoes a lot of what people think about Derek Carr.
He did in a minute.
He did, and you know, I look, Derek Carr is in his 6th year. He's got numbers. He mentioned Phillip Rivers. He mentioned other guys who have numbers too. Mm-hmm. At the bottom, at the end of the day, it's about winning. So you have to look at record. You have to look at all that. And yes, the quarterback doesn't put together the team. Right, so it's not all your fault.
It's a full team effort. We talked about it. Derek Carr, he's a system quarterback, and if the system isn't working like we saw on Sunday, if the system's breaking down, and the quarterback's not going to look so good. Same with Jared Goff last night. I would rather have Derek Carr than Jared Goff, to be honest with you. Right, and you're seeing Goff on Monday night, and the system's not working, and he's breaking down. Same thing with Carr. If the system's not working, the car's not running on all cylinders.
And there are I got that one. There are a lot of issues with this team. There's a lot of holes. There's still a lot of holes. Mm-hmm. Despite their success this year and where they're at for what they have, there's still a lot of holes to fill. And so, is it quarterback first? You know, the NFL, you got to have a good quarterback. I think he brought up a good point there, which was the idea that you look at the teams that are humming along right now, they all have pretty stellar quarterbacks, right?
I think you have to have good balance. And now, you know, every good quarterback's got a good running game. Mm-hmm. And now with Josh Jacobs, with his emergence, it's going to make Derek Carr look that much better. They're all going to get on the same page. They're all young. You know, they're working toward a common goal. And you hear just in the locker room, like the caller Daniel said, you know, Derek Carr is a great guy, and he is a leader of that locker room. And these guys look up to him. And Josh Jacobs the same way. You know,
but remember at the game on Sunday, I said this is the kind of point in the game where stuff's not going well anywhere,
and he can't improvise.
You need to have a quarterback kind of take them
right. And he does. He makes plays with his legs. You know, you can't put it all on him. I don't know how many drops there were, but
I mean, again. But there's strong opinions on both sides. That's to be certain. All right, so heated rivalry coming up on Sunday. The Chiefs lead the all-time series 67-53-2. The Chiefs have won 4 straight in the series dating back to 2017. The Raiders have lost 6 straight at Arrowhead dating back to 2012. Chaz, in the about a minute we have left before the end of the show, what do they need to do against the Chiefs besides just score a lot of points?
Forget it. Let's just talk about it on Sunday morning pregame show. There's too much to talk about in less than a minute. Listen, the Raiders aren't close to being a complete team yet, right? They really need to play mistake-free, well-balanced football to be successful, you know?
Yeah.
That's really all we can talk about right now.
They do, and it's going to be a tough game. But you know what? That's what teams who want to go into the playoffs, who want to make a dent in the playoffs, what they want to do. They want to go in a tough week and a tough game and show people that they can do it.
Yeah, I'm just hoping for a competitive game, man.
Yeah,
be honest with you.
Look, it's been a house of horrors there for the Raiders. Like I said, going back to 2012,
and I froze my you-know-what off, and I watched the game, and the Raiders were moving. Jerry Rice fumbled at the end of the game, and the Raiders lost. And I got Chiefs fans all over, and it's a tough place. It is all Chiefs there. It's not like L.A. Chargers, where it's all the other team, and hopefully we don't get that in Las Vegas, where it's going to be a bunch of the other te's fans. That's 100% Chiefs over there.
We will talk all about this on Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on Silver and Black Today, coming to you live from the Stage Door Casino. Yes, 8 to 10 a.m. They're going to have the Stage Door-ettes there, lots of giveaways, the Silver and Black drink and the Black Hole drink. Make sure you come down For Chaz Osborne, I am Scott Branson. We appreciate you listening. We will talk to you on Sunday. Want to thank also our producer, engineer. Happy Thanksgiving.
Everyone out there.
Mark Bonilla, who's back there on the dials. We appreciate everything he does. Thanks, All right, Mark. We'll talk to you on Sunday. Take care, everybody.